Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the post-pizza nap talk. And it's been proved that there's a 60% probability that you're going to sleep after pizza. So let me know if you're asleep already. Yeah. No? Okay, I'm going to ask again. Are you asleep? No. Oh, good. Well, if you do want to fall asleep, or if you want to maybe browse a website, I have a recommendation for you. There's this website called speakerdeck.com where my slides are available. speakerdeck.com/Claudio. You can find it there, and they're going to be there forever. So just in case you want to go there and spoil the talk, you can do that. I'm not going to be offended. Anyways, thanks for coming. This talk is about Rails, because it's Birmingham and Rails, specifically about a library called Active Storage, which is part of Rails, and it simplifies the process of uploading and downloading files. But as Brian said at the very beginning, you should all be learning something if possible. And I think you might, because if you've never used Active Storage, you're going to see how easy it is to use it. If you have used Active Storage, I'm going to go a little deep in kind of like some advanced use. And if you don't care about Active Storage, you might still learn something about iOS development. This talk has 3 parts, like every great talk or movie or anything. And I'm going to take a little break after each part. I was going to see if you wanted to ask questions, but I think logistically it's going to be hard, so you can ask those at the end. The first part is really like the basics of Active Storage. How do you use it if you have a Rails app and you want to let users upload and download files from the browser? And then the second part is kind of like the real core of this talk. Can you do a little more than to just upload and download? So can you analyze these files, get something out of that, and then use that? And then in the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about validation. So can we make for a better user experience by telling the users, hey, you're uploading the wrong file, or something like that. Cool. You guys ready? I'm measuring the level of sleep. Okay, let's start with the easy part. Cool. So for this talk, I'm going to use a real Rails application that is actually open source. The URL is github.com/clutter/MDMA, which stands for Mobile Deployment Management Agent, something like that. And let me tell you what this app does. If you are an iOS developer and you use Swift, use Xcode, and you build an iOS app, at the end you have this package, which in Apple is a file called .ipa. So you have this package and you want to distribute it. So you can use this Rails app, and it has different features, but I'm showing you the main 2 things. First, there is a page where an iOS developer goes and uploads this package with a file uploader, and also specifies which version of this iOS app it is. So you just go there, you submit this form, and then there is the second page where you land, where you can see all the versions. And so typically, maybe a QA developer is going to go to the second page and see, oh, there is a new maybe test version of this app. I'm going to download and test it. This is just once again an example just to show you how you can upload and download files. So let me break these 2 pages down for you. So one is a create action, and the other is an index. So specifically, this thing that we are creating, this model, I call this a build, and it has 2 fields. The first one, the file itself, we call that a package, and the second is just the version. When you submit, you're going to see in the params there is a package and a version, and then it's submitted, and then in the index there's always a package and a version. So it's a pretty simple model with 2 fields. Now, if you've never, maybe you've used file uploads in Rails with other libraries like Paperclip or CarrierWave. This one is using active storage. One of the benefits is that it's in Rails, so you don't need to install anything else, but you need to do something in your code to make this work. And let me show you what that is. So how do you make this thing work, this file uploader with active storage? You really need to write three things. First of all, in the view, in the HTML, you actually need that file uploader right there to display in the browser. So in your view, you add a file field, and let's call that package. That one you need so the user can click choose file. Then in the controller, you need to whitelist these params. There was a talk before about the history of strong parameters. That's exactly what it is. So you need to add params require package right there so it can be submitted. And finally, this is the most powerful thing. You just add one line of code to your model, to your build model, and you say has one attached package. Has one attached is a method that comes from active storage that enables all of this. So you do all of that, your form, submit, you have the file. And then in your index, you want a link to download the file. And there is a helper called Rails blob URL. You put that in your view. You pass, let's say, the package, and then some options. For instance, disposition attachment means when I click, I don't want to open it in the browser. I want to download it. And that's it. That's all you need for your download links. Now, if you're wondering, where is this file stored? Where does it go? That depends on how you are configuring your Rails application. So for instance, if you want your files to go to Amazon S3, in production, you go to your config environments production, and you add a line of code that says that the active storage service is S3. This also is by default inside the active storage code base. You can pick Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Storage. Those all come. And there's also another one called local. So if you're just doing localhost, that's the default. So you just uploads it to your hard drive and then downloads it from there. And so this is really the kind of like the basics. Other libraries have other ways of doing kind of like the same process. And I've been using active storage for a couple of years, and I feel that it's pretty convenient. You might want to give it a try. And yes, so just a couple of notes on its usage. What if we want to have some validations? For instance, let's say that the user submits the form and forgets to attach anything. You might want to tell the user the package can't be blank. This validation is pretty simple. You just use the normal validates package presence true, and then it's going to display the error. What if we wanted something a little more advanced? For instance, let's say that we wanted to tell the user, hey, your attachment cannot be too big, or it has to be a zip file. It would be nice if we could use a similar syntax. So validates, attachment size, certain size, or attachment content type. I'm saying it would be nice because right now there is a pull request open in the Rails code base 35390 that it's suggesting these validations. It's not been merged yet, so I'm not going to use them. But if you're interested, there's a good discussion there, and you might want to follow that PR. And that concludes the first part. How many people are still with me? Okay, that was the hard one. Okay. Uploading and downloading. That's not hard. Can we do something more? So let me tell you a little more about this MDMA app. Exactly what it's supposed to do. this is exactly what it's supposed to do. An iOS developer uploads the package, and then a QA developer opens this website on an iPhone, clicks on the package, and is able to install the app on the phone directly. That's really the goal, because if you just download this file, whatever, who cares? Now, you can do this. Apple lets you do this. So you don't have to use the App Store to distribute your applications. You can share a link. However, it's not as easy. If you just share a link to the IPA file itself, and you try to open that in Safari on your phone, you're gonna see that. Your phone is gonna say, where do you want to download this file? To do this, Apple says, well, you need to do a little bit of work. So what we want is a link, and then you click install, and your phone is gonna say, would you like to install this app? So to do that, the URL needs to look a little different. It's a different protocol, but more importantly, you need to do some processing. And this is what you have to do. You have your package stored somewhere. You need to open it. Inside this package, there's going to be an XML file that has some information about the iOS app, like the name, the version, the minimum iOS version. You need to extract all this information. Then you need to create a brand new file called manifest.plist, put the information there, upload this file, and then link to this file. Apple always makes things very easy for developers. But that's it. That's what you have to do. So, even if you don't want to try Active Storage, maybe you've learned something today, you can make your own app and share with your friends, but there's this little bit of manual process to do. You need to share a link to a manifest that links to your actual package. And so the question is, can Active Storage do all of this? Who says yes? I mean, if you say no, the talk is basically over. So yes, it can. And I'll show you how. So what we want to do here is we have this attachment, this package, and now we want to do something with it. We want to analyze it behind the scenes and get some information. Luckily, in Active Storage, there is already some code that analyzes files, and it's called Analyzer. Great name. So here's an example. If you use Active Storage to upload an image, and like a JPEG, a GIF, or a GIF, I don't know in Alabama how you say that. Active Storage automatically tries to analyze that image, extract the width and the height, and store that in the database, because there is a thing called Image Analyzer. Same thing if you upload a video, Active Storage is going to try to extract the resolution, the duration, and so on for you, because there is a thing called Video Analyzer. So what I'm going to show you now is a redacted version of the code base of Rails for the Image Analyzer, because then we're going to do something similar, and we're going to write a package analyzer. There's no iOS package analyzer by default. Code. I know. Okay, so this is code from Rails. It's a little redacted, but it's to explain you how it works under the hood. Whenever you upload an image with Active Storage, this is code from Rails. The first thing is the class attachment that says, after an attachment is created, enqueue this job called analyze job. So whenever you create any attachment, this analyze job is going to be enqueued. It's going to run in the background later. What this analyze job does, and that's the second part, is it's kind of like a switch statement. What kind of attachment is this? If it finds out that it's an image, then it's going to call the image analyzer. So that's that part of code. It's an image. I'm going to call the image analyzer. I'm going to tell it to extract metadata. And then I'm going to store it back in the database. There's a column called metadata where it's going to be stored. And finally, specifically, the image analyzer, what it does two things. First of all, we are in a background job. Like this is maybe running like 5 seconds after the file has already been stored. So the first thing it has to do is to download blob to temp file basically has to get the file back. Let's say we store the file to S3. This job has to get it back because it wants to analyze it in memory. And then it relies on a third-party library called Minimagic, which is just like an image manipulation library that is able to open a JPEG file and extract the metadata. So in this case, it extracts the width and the height, and if you want more, the color, resolution, depth, you can do all of that, and then it returns this information. And so the important thing about the analyzer is that, as I mentioned, it runs in a background job, so it needs this download blob to temp file method because the file is maybe on S3, it needs to be in memory. And every analyzer is going to kind of call this method. And so, given that this is what happens with images, let me show you what we can do with packages. This is not the Rails code anymore. This is the code of this application, but it follows a similar structure. First of all, whenever we create a build, after it's created, we call our own job. It's named package analyze job. When this job is run, we tell it to call our own analyzer. We already know it's a package. This is our app, so we only upload iOS packages. And whatever comes back, we store it in the database, just like before. And then we have our own analyzer. I call this package analyzer. And similar to the image one, it uses a library that is able to open iOS packages. It's called CF, which is Core Foundation Property Bundle. It's able to open this IPA file and extract metadata, and then store the properties back. And so this is the code that I wrote, and I really, as you can see, took inspiration from the Active Storage source code. And one of the reasons I put it here is just to show you that sometimes people are kind of like afraid to open the source code of Rails because they think it's super complicated. But specifically, Active Storage is not that complicated compared to other libraries, so you can really go and explore. So let me break down some of the code here for you. Just for your own curiosity, what is this CF property bundle? So what is this thing that Xcode creates, basically? Well, this has nothing to do with Active Storage. It's just to show you that really an IPA file is really a zip file. That's what Xcode creates. It's a zip file. The extension is .ipa. And then in the zip files, there are several folders, and there's like some XML. So basically, we're trying to open this as a zip file, extracting the property list and getting some of those properties out. And also, maybe a user has not really uploaded a zip file, has made a mistake, uploaded an image. In that case, zip file open would just raise an error, like a zip error. So rather than bubbling up that error, we can raise our own custom error. And this is, part of that library. This is what's under the hood of the IPA. Okay, the second note about this code is that if you have noticed, there's kind of like a weird thing there that says prepend true, which is also was weird for me because when I first wrote the code, it wasn't there, and then the code was failing, and I didn't know why. So I'm here to tell you why it was failing and what that thing does. That has to do with callbacks in Rails. Callbacks in Rails are already pretty complicated to kind of like really understand. And one thing that is complicated is if you have the same kind of callback multiple times in your code. Let's say you have after save, after save, after save, doing different things. Which one runs first? If these are after callbacks, the last one that you declared is going to be the first one to be executed. This is just how callbacks work in Rails. It happens that in Active Storage, the part of code that actually moves the file to S3 is also in an after create commit callback. So you have the same callback, the one that Rails uses to move the file to S3 is declared first, and then we have our own after create commit. So if we don't do anything, our code is going to run first. Our code is the one that wants to download the file from S3 to analyze it. And so the file is not there yet. So we're going to say, hey, we're declaring this after create commit later, but can you fake it? Can you put it before the other one so it's going to run later, basically? That's how you do it. You say prepend true, which is also like a mental loop because you prepend it to run it later because it's an after. It's kind of like a double negation. But yeah, if you've never seen that, that's what it does. And even in your normal Rails code, even beyond active storage, if you have this sort of problem that you want to like give a specific order somehow to the execution of callbacks, you can use that prepend true. Cool, and we're almost there. We finally have all the metadata that we need from this attachment, the app name, version, and so on. We can store it in the database, but if you remember, what we really want to do is to generate another file, an XML file, interpolating all this metadata, and so we can actually do it right there in that job. So I'm going to expand that second file. And this is really what the second file looks like. The first two lines are the same, but then what we do is we create a new file, which is what we have to do. So we use temp file open to create a new temporary file called manifest.plist. We write in this file with that XML code that Apple provides. It's just like a template, XML version 1.0. And then in this template, we interpolate the metadata that we have, and we also have to interpolate the URL of the package. And you do that with package.service URL. And finally, we have this temporary file. We actually want to upload this file to S3 as well. And so the easiest way to upload a file in Rails is with active storage. And so what we can do is in the build model, apart from has one attached package, we can say has one attached manifest as well. And now we can just do build.manifest.attach. Attach is a method that you can use to explicitly upload a file. So the upload works in the browser, you've seen that, but if you want to do it like in a script like this, you do .attach and you pass your temporary file, and then it's just going to store it. So it is a little maybe complicated, like it's a few lines of code, but it does a lot. You know, it removes all that manual processing of you having to extract this information, creating the file, and so on. It does all of this. And so because of all that code, we now can do what we want to do. We can link to the URL of the manifest. We just replace in Rails blob URL build manifest, and then the link to, we just need to use the protocol that Apple is telling us to use, ITMS services, and that's it. We get that. So there was a little bit of code there, but I think it's still pretty powerful because we've done all of this with no third-party jams, with just maybe, I don't know, 30 lines of code, and it really saves us a lot of time. Who's still alive? Well, that was the tough part. Okay, I still have a little bit of time. So for the very last part, I'm going to go back here to this form. This is the one that I showed at the beginning. This is where we ask iOS developers to upload a package and tell us which version of the iOS app they are uploading. However, the version of the app is one of those properties that we can extract from the package itself. It's one of those metadata. So the question is, do we have to ask users to type it? Because it's inside the package. In fact, the version of an iOS package is very important. If on your iPhone you have, let's say, version 10 of the Uber app, and I make a new build, and I give it version 10, your phone is not going to download it and install it. It's going to think it's the same one. I have to give it an incremental version. So it is important because that's how your phone knows it needs to update it, right? So the version is very important. It's in the package. It would be nice if I didn't ask the user to type it, because they might forget it, they might make a mistake. We can just get it from the package. And so I basically want to get rid of the number 2 there. And I want the form to look like this. But if I just do that and nothing else, I will get an error. Because, as I mentioned, the version is important, so I have a validation. I don't want the build to be saved without a version. So the version has to be there and also has to be unique. So I want like a balance. I want it to be there, but I don't want the user to type it. I want to extract it. So I want the validation there, but before this validation, I want to run some code that's going to set the version. So everything that I've shown you so far, the analyzer and so on, all of that runs in a background job. All of that runs after the build is already saved, after the file is already in S3. But here, I want to do something before all of that. I want to block the user from even submitting the form if the version is missing. So you kind of have to think of, these are two different processes. In general, it's very good to delay everything in a background job because I don't want to block the web request. I don't want the user waiting in the browser while all this happens. The file is being generated and uploaded. But in some specific cases like this, we can do a little bit of that work in advance, just like not the whole XML, just like checking if the version is there and setting it. So you always want to find that compromise in your code. Delay as much as possible in a background job so the response is fast, but still give a good user experience. So the analyzer is the part that is extracting the version. And as I said, the analyzer uses that download blob to temp file. So the analyzer assumes the file is already on S3. We can't use this directly. The file is not yet on S3. But we can call that CF property bundle directly in our model. And this is the code, and I'm going to break it down right now. But this is what the model looks like at the end. So let me break it down. So the validation is still there. We're still going to block the user from submitting a package without a version or with a duplicate version. This is the new part. Before this validation, we're going to set the version. And this set version method basically does two things. It calls this library, CF property bundle, to get the version from the file and then set self.version to that thing. And the important part to understand is, what is that file? No, there's no S3. Where does that file come from? Well, here we are in the moment where the user is submitting the package. So the file is actually still in memory. The file here is still in Rails. We don't need to grab it from S3. We have it there in memory. What I mean is the user has just submitted, upload, so in the params, there's actually a package right there, which is a action dispatch HTTP uploaded file, which we have in memory. We just need a way to access it. I wish there was like an easier syntax to access that right away. That's the syntax that I found. Basically, you submit this attachment, and then you can access this attachment changes, which has all the things that are going to change once you save this build. And then you can pick the package, that's the one that we're looking for. And then really what we want is the temporary file that's in memory, and you get that with .attachable. So that's how you access the file from memory without getting it from S3. So we have the file, we just analyze it, it's in memory, we just get the version. This is pretty fast. The file is already in memory, we're just like open it and getting a version. It's not going to block the user for a couple of seconds. The last 2 notes about this code. First, if you've never used with options, what that is saying is if the user forgot to attach anything in this form, don't even validate the version. I mean, there's no package. There's no need to check if there's a version. The user forgot. So if there's no package, let's just say package can't be blank. Let's not say package can't be blank and version can't be blank and the version must be unique, because there's no point. So we're just going to run that validation if package attach, and that attach question mark is a method that you can use to see if there was a package. And then the very last part, if you remember, I mentioned that this CF property bundle can raise its own custom error in case anything goes wrong with extracting the version. It's not a zip file. It is a zip file, but it doesn't have the information that Apple wants. In any of those cases, we can actually rescue it right there and say, I wasn't able to extract the version, so fix it, upload a different file. And this is really good, because right now, in this way, we're giving the users an immediate feedback of there's something wrong with the file that you uploaded. It doesn't comply with what I was expecting. This is even before we tried to generate a manifest. So if we didn't have this code right here, the user would submit any file, they wouldn't see anything, they would just go to the index, and then the job maybe would fail, and they wouldn't be able to install it. Here, we're preventing that. Here, we're just putting some sort of validation based on the content. It's a very small one. Let's try to open it and extract the version, but it's really the minimum that you need to make sure that it's that file and not, I don't know, an executable or an image or something like that. And that pretty much concludes my talk. I know there was a lot here. So a couple of comments. As I said, I've been working with Active Storage in different projects for the last 2 years. And there's a lot more in Active Storage that I haven't talked about. For instance, there's a whole JavaScript component that you can use to upload files directly from your browser to S3 without going through Rails. There's really a lot more. And things are always changing. I showed you that PR, which is open, so things have been changing from 5.2 to 6.0 and maybe to 6.1. And those are some of the methods that I mentioned. Maybe you had heard of some of those, maybe you hadn't, but I hope you learned something. And that's the time that I have, but I'm happy to answer all your questions. Thanks.